Alright, welcome back. This is Portland Math Tutor. We are working on practice test number 7 for the math sections. That'd be section 3 and section 4. Without further ado, let's jump into it. We're starting with section 3. That's the no calculator section. And here is our reference sheet. We can come back to this as needed throughout the test. Number 1, x plus y equals 75. The equation above relates the number of minutes x Maria spends running each day and the number of minutes y she spends biking each day. In the equation, what does the number 75 represent? Very well. The number 5, let's get black, okay. The number 75 is the sum of x and y, which are hours spent running and hours spent biking. So it's the number of minutes she spends exercising, the sum of those two activities. A, the number of minutes spent running each day? No. Oops. Let's get a pencil or pen. B, the number of minutes spent biking each day? No, it's the sum of both activities. The total number of minutes spent biking or spent running and biking each day. Yes, that's exactly what we were talking about. D, the number of minutes spent biking for each minute spent running. Not sure what they're getting at there, but C is our answer. 2. Which of the following is equivalent to 3 times quantity x plus 5 minus 6? Well, it looks like we're just going to need to distribute here. I distribute this 3 across the parentheses, and then I'll combine like terms. So 3 times x, it's 3x, 3 times 5, that's 15, positive 15. And then combine like terms, we have two constants here, so 3x plus 9. That would be C for our answer. 3. Which ordered pair xy satisfies the system of equations shown above? Okay, so I'm looking at my solutions really quick, and I see that we don't have any duplicate x's or y's in any of my answers here, so it doesn't really matter which variable we solve for. Once we solve for one variable, we'll be able to pick our answer. We won't have to solve for the second variable, which is nice. So since we already have x isolated, we know what x equals. It equals y minus 3. Well, that means that I can replace the x in the second equation with y minus 3 and then solve for y. Very well. Okay. So I'm going to substitute that y minus 3 into the second equation, and I get this equation shown. So it'd be nice to get rid of that denominator. To do that, I'm going to do what's called clearing the denominator. So I'm just going to multiply everything by 2 on both sides. So I'm going to multiply this the first term by 2, and I'll get y minus 3. That cancels out the denominator. I'll multiply the second term by 2, and I'll get 4y, and then multiply the 6 by 2, get 12. Alright, combine like terms, we get 5y minus 3, and then add 3 to both sides. We get 5y equals 15, and then finally divide by 3. We see that y equals positive 3. And we see that there's only one solution where y equals 3. That'd be B. Number 4. Which of the following complex numbers is equal to 5 plus 12i minus quantity 9i squared minus 6i? Okay, well, I'm going to start just by, I want to simplify this. I'm going to get rid of the parentheses by distributing the coefficients. Distributing positive 1 across the first set of parentheses gives me 5 plus 12i. Distributing negative 1 across the second set of parentheses gives me negative 9i squared plus 6i. Okay, so I'm going to combine like terms to start here. I'm going to get, 12i and 6i, that's going to be 18i plus 5 minus 9. Now, I squared, if I equals the square root of negative 1, and we square both sides, well, then we see that I squared equals, well, the square root of negative 1 times the square root of negative 1 is just negative 1. So that's going to turn into negative 1. Okay. Well, I don't even really need to go any further. I mean, I guess I could have stopped as soon as I combined like terms, the 12i and the 6i, because there's only one term, or sorry, one expression that has 18i or positive 18i in the solution. So we know that 14 plus 18i is our solution, but let's just continue. So we're going to have 18i. That's going to be positive 5, and this is going to be a positive 9. Negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9, plus 14. So in the order of the terms, it doesn't matter. D would be our solution. Number 5. If f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 3 divided by x minus 1, what is f of negative 1? Okay, well, this is just function notation. So all we need to do is just plug negative 1 into our input. So we're going to get negative 1 squared minus 6 times negative 1 plus 3 over negative 1 minus 1. Okay, well, it's just going to be 1 plus 6 plus 3 over, well, it's negative 2. Okay. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 3 is 10. That's going to be 10 on negative 2, negative 5. A would be our answer. Number 6. A company that makes wildlife videos purchases camera equipment for $32,400. The equipment depreciates in value at a constant rate for 12 years, after which it is considered to have no monetary value. How much is the camera equipment worth 4 years after its purchase? All right. Well, you should have constant rate. That tells us that we are going to be working with a linear equation, and just right off the bat, you should be thinking about y equals mx plus b. Okay. M is the rate of change, and b is the starting value. In this case, the rate of change is unknown, but we know that after 12 years it's going to be 0. Okay, so at 0 years, if we think about this as years on our x and value on our y, we can see that after 0 years, we're going to be worth 32,400, and after 12 years, we're going to be worth nothing. So the point 0, 32,400 would be on our graph, and the point 12, 0 would be on our graph. Okay, so to figure out the rate of change, we would just need to figure out, rate of change, or slope in this case, is going to be change in y over change in x. Okay, well, what is the change in y? What is the change in the value from start to finish, from 0 years to 12 years? Well, it's going to be negative 32,400. And the change in x from 0 years to 12 years, well, that's 12. Okay, so if we simplify this, we'll see that we can divide. Let's see, let's do it on the side here. 12 into 32,400. It's going to go twice. That's 24. Remainder of 8. Drop the 4. 12 goes into 84. Well, it goes into 65 times. 72 6 times. And then, that's going to be 7. 7 times 12 is 84. And then it goes in evenly. So there we go. So the rate of change is negative 2,700. Okay, so every year the price depreciates by $2,700. Okay. So we're going to have our starting value at 32,400, and then we're going to multiply our years by the rate of change, which is negative 2,700, and that's going to give us the value of the equipment after 4 years, or in this case, after 4 years is what we're looking for. After 4 years, so we've got y equals negative 2,700 times 4 plus 32,400. Okay, so 2,700 times 4, it's going to be 2,700 times 4. That's going to be 0,082. It's 8. That's 10,800. So it's going to be depreciate by 10,800, and that's going to be out of 34,400. Okay, so then we're just going to subtract. I'm going to get a little bit of space here. I'm just going to subtract 3,200 or 30,400 minus 10,800. 0, 0. Pull one of these over. That's going to be a 14 minus 8 is 16. 1 and 2. So the value after 4 years is 21,600. 21,600. Number 7. X squared plus 6x plus 4. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? Okay, well, it looks like all of these are in vertex form, and we're starting in standard form. So to get from standard to vertex form, you complete the square. Okay, so to complete the square on this expression, I'm just going to write it out. Okay, so for it to be a perfect square, you need C to equal B on 2 squared. So B is 6, B divided by 2 is 3, 3 squared is 9. So I need to have my C value be 9. And I typically just like to add the 9 and subtract the 9. Yeah, instead of trying to just say, okay, well, what do I have to add to this value to get 9? I find this easier, especially when you're dealing with larger numbers. Here it's not such a big deal, but okay, so this is our perfect quadratic, or sorry, our perfect square quadratic. To factor a quadratic that's a perfect square, it's going to be x plus half of b squared. Okay, so this piece right here factors into this. And then we have this piece on the end, which is minus 5. So it looks like our answer is right here, B. Number 8. Ken is working this summer as part of a crew on a farm. He earned $8 per hour for the first 10 hours he worked this week. Because of his performance, his crew leader raised his salary to $10 per hour for the rest of the week. Ken saves 90% of his earnings from each week. What is the least number of hours he must work the rest of the week to save at least $270 this week? Okay, so it's going to be some kind of inequality, right? And we want to know, we want to have 270 be the minimum, right? Is going to be less than less than or equal to the amount of money he saves. It says that he earns $8 per hour for the first 10 hours that he worked. Okay, well, we can just put that in, right? That's going to be 8 times 10, that's 80. Oops. So already this week he earned $80. And he's going to earn $10 an hour for the rest of the week. And we want to know how many hours he has to work. So we know that he's gonna work a certain number of hours, and for each of those hours he's gonna get paid $10. So 10 times H. So he's gonna earn that much more. This is gonna be the expression that tells us how much money he earns total. Now he wants to save at least $270. So what we're trying to figure out here is not how much money he earns, but how much money he saves. And he's going to save 90%. Well, 90% we would have to multiply by 9/10 to figure that out. Okay? So 270 is less than or equal to 9/10 of 80. Well, 8 times 9 is 70, and then we have a 0, so it'll be 720, and then we're talking about we have one decimal place, so it's going to be 79.0, or just 72.0, or just 72. Plus, well, 9/10 of 10, 9/10, it's going to be 9. Okay, I'm going to subtract 72 from both sides. I'll get 100, I guess that would be 198. It's less than or equal to 9H. And then divide both sides by 9. I'll see that, 9 goes into 19 twice with a remainder of 1. And it goes into 18, goes into 18 twice. So it goes in evenly 22 times. So 22 must be less than or equal to H, and we want to know the least number of hours. So least number of hours is going to be 22. Number 9. Marissa needs to hire at least 10 staff members for an upcoming project. The staff members will be made up of junior directors. Okay, I'm just going to highlight some of this. Junior directors who will be paid $640 per week. Let's get some blue. Senior directors who will get paid $880 per week. And I guess that's it. Junior directors and senior directors. Okay. Her budget Her budget for paying the staff members is no more than $9,700 per week. She must hire at least 3 junior directors and at least 1 senior director. Okay, so very well. 1 junior, at least 3 junior and 1 senior. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents the conditions conditions described if X is the number of junior directors? Okay, so junior directors was red. I'm just going to highlight that in red. X is the number of junior, and B for blue, and Y is the number of senior directors. Okay, and we need 1 senior director, at least 1 senior director, and at least 3 junior directors. Okay, well, let's just start with the second set of data here. We need at least 1 senior director, so that's Y. So Y has to be greater than or equal to 1. At least 3 junior directors, so that's X. X has to be greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so I think we can just eliminate some of the possible solutions here right off the bat. The first one, that actually works with our system, with our 2 inequalities here. The second one, that also works with our inequalities. The third, X is less than or equal to 3, nope. And the same with the last, X is less than or equal to 3. They have those backwards. Okay. We also know that the staff members will be made up. We need to hire at least 10 staff. So we know that y plus x has to be greater than or equal to 10. Okay, well, we can eliminate one more of our inequalities, because the first one says that x plus y has to be less than or equal to 10. So we know that our answer is B. And we didn't even need to get into the salary. You could go through to confirm your answer, but at this point we can move on. Number 10. ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d equals 0. In the equation above, a, b, c, and d are constants. In the equation, if the equation has roots at -1, -3, and 5, which of the following is a factor of ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d? Okay. If we know that we have roots at these points, that means we must have factors as such. So if we have a root at x equals -1, we must have a factor of x plus 1. If we have a factor or a root at -3, we must have a factor of x plus 3. And if we have a root at 5, we must have a factor of x minus 5. It doesn't even really matter what the expression is or what those coefficients are, if they're real, if they're just numbers, it does not matter. But we know that, well, one of these is going to be a factor at least, and we see that b, x plus 1, is the only one that matches up. Number 11. Okay, so we've got some negative exponents. We have some fractional exponents. To start off, I'm going to use the quotient property for exponents, and that just means that it says that if we have the same base power divided by the same base power, we can subtract the exponent. So it's going to be -2 minus 1/3. Well, it's going to be -6/3 minus 1/3. Then I have y to the 1/2 minus 1, that's going to be plus, or sorry, minus negative 1, it's going to be plus positive 1, or plus 2 halves. Okay, so I'm going to have x to the negative 7/3, y to the 3 halves. Okie doke. Alright, so it doesn't look like we have anything to fractional exponents, so we're going to have to turn everything into positive exponents as well as roots. However, when we do that, I think we're going to want to break this up a little bit, because I don't see anything. I'm looking ahead and I'm seeing that the x to the negative 7/3, well, I know that's going to go on bottom, and y to the 3 halves is going to go on top. That would be the square root of y to the 3rd over the 3rd root of x to the 7th. Okay, well, I'm seeing that I don't have any of those as possible solutions. So what I need to do is I need to simplify my my radicals here. Well, the square root of y to the 3rd is the same as the square root of y squared times the square root of y, and 3rd root of x to the 7th is the same as the 3rd root of x to the 6th times 3rd root of x. Okay, well, the square root of y squared is just y, and then we have times the square root of y. Okay, so that simplifies our numerator. Alright, our denominator, we have the 3rd root of x to the 6th. What number, or what value times itself 3 times equals x to the 6th? Well, that's going to be x squared, and then we have the 3rd root of x. Okay, so there is our solution, and I see that we have a solution here, D. 12. The function f is defined by f of x equals x plus 3 times x plus 1. The graph of f in the xy plane is a parabola. Which of the following intervals contains x coordinates of the vertex of the graph? Okay, well, let's get a sketch going of this graph. We know that our x-intercepts are going to come out of the fact that we have factors at x plus 3, x minus 3. So our intercepts for this graph are going to be at -3 and -1. So let's do a little, so there's -3, there's -1, -2. Okay, we also know that the a, the leading coefficient, is positive, so it's going to open in the upward direction. So we're going to have something like that. And we want to know which of the following intervals contains the x-coordinate of the vertex of the graph. Well, we know the x-coordinate of the vertex, we know the vertex is right here. That's going to be between -3 and -1. Okay, so if we look at our graph, we can see that -4, in between -4 and -3, well, that doesn't work. That's on the left side. That's somewhere over here. -3 to +1. Well, yeah, +1 is way over here, right? So yeah, it's definitely in between -3 and +1. Yeah, it's definitely in that range. Let's look at the rest of them. 1 and 3. Well, 1 and 3, that's going to be over there on the right. That's not possible. And between 3 and 4, that's also to the right. So our solution is B. 13. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to x squared minus 2x plus 5 on x minus 3? Okay, looks like we have some division that we need to do here. I'm partial to algebraic long division. I think it's easier and more applicable in most cases, especially when you have a coefficient on your x term that you're dividing by. So let's set this up. We've got x minus 3 into x squared minus 2x minus 5. So x goes into x squared. Well, we need to multiply that times x. Okay, and I'll put that on top of my linear term. And then x times x, that's going to give me that x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. And we're going to be subtracting this whole piece. So my x squares are going to cancel out. Then I'm subtracting negative 3x, so that's adding 3x. I'm just going to be left with x. And drop my negative 5. And then, well, how many times, or what do I have to multiply x by to get to x? Well, that's just a positive 1. Multiply back through, I'll get x minus 3 and subtract. My x's cancel out this time, and then I have negative 5 plus 3, so that's going to be negative 2. So that's my remainder. That has not been divided by x minus 3. So my solution to this would be x plus 1, and since this is negative, it's going to be minus 2 on x minus 3. That is my expression there, and I can see that only answer D is going to give us a solution. 14. A shipping service restricts the dimensions of the boxes it will ship for a certain type of service. The restriction states that for boxes shaped like rectangular prisms, the sum of the perimeter of the base of the box and the height of the box cannot exceed 130 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight that. So the sum of the perimeter of the base and the height cannot exceed 130 inches. Okay. The perimeter of the base is determined using the width and length of the box. If the box has a height of 60 inches and its length is 2 times its width, which inequality shows the allowable width, x, in terms of, in inches of the box. Okay, so we know that 130 inches is going to be the max. Cannot exceed 130, so it could be equal to, has to be less than or equal to 130 inches. And the sum of the perimeter of the base and the height. So the perimeter of the base is going to be 2 times length plus 2 times width, and then you have to add to that the height. Okay. Well, we also know that we also have some further information here. It says that the length is 2 times the width. Okay, very well. The length is 2 times the width, so I'm going to write this as 130 has to be greater than or equal to 2 times the length is 2.5 times the width. So I'm going to have 2.5 W plus 2W plus, and the height, well, the height they said is 60 inches. Okay, good. So plus 60. Alright, let's simplify this a little bit further. We're going to get 130 is greater than or equal to 5W plus 2W plus 60. I'm going to subtract 60 from both sides. I'll get 70 is greater than or equal to 7w. Okay, so divide both sides by 7, I'll see that 10 has to be greater than or equal to w. Okay, well that means that w has to be, w being the width, and we're using x for the width. So x has to be less than 10. Okay, well then let's take a look at our possible solutions here. The first one works for our situation here, and none of the rest look like they are gonna suffice. More applicable to 15. The expression 1/3 x squared minus 2 can be written as 1/3 x minus k, x plus k, where k is a positive constant. What is the value of k? Okay. Alright, so this is going to be, it looks like we have what this here is a difference of squares. Okay, we should recognize that difference of squares is going to be when you take a squared minus b squared and you factor it into a plus b, a minus b. Okay, so and we have the 1/3 out front as a coefficient. 1/3 out front as a coefficient. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to factor out that 1/3, and then we'll have x squared minus, well, if we factor out a third, what times 1/3 equals 2? Well, it's going to be 6. Yeah, you see that if we distribute that 1/3, it'll be 1/3 x squared, and then 1/3 times -6 is -2. Okay, and using our pattern, we can factor this binomial to x plus the square root of 6, x minus the square root of 6. So the value of k is the square root of 6. 16. If 2x plus 8 equals 16, what's the value of x plus 4? Okay, well we need to figure out what x is, and then we can add 4 to that to figure out the value of x plus 4. So we have 2x plus 8 equals 16. Subtract 8 from both sides. 2x equals 8. Divide by 2, x equals 4. So then x plus 4, if x is 4, then the value of this must be 8. 17. The figure above, MQ and NR intersect at point P. NP equals QP. NP, let's mark this. NP equals QP. And MP equals PR. Very well. What is the measure in degrees of QMR? So we're looking for this angle right here. Disregard the degree symbol when gridding your answer. Okay. Sounds good. All right, so what we have here, we know that this angle and this angle are going to be supplementary. So this angle in blue must be 180 minus 60, which is 120. Okay. We also know that this is an isosceles triangle. This MPR is an isosceles triangle. So we also know that the base angles of an isosceles triangle are congruent. And we know that the sum of the interior angles of a triangle are 180. So we have 120 for the top of the triangle, plus we have two 2 times these base angles, because we have 2 of them in there, and they're equal. And we know that that has to equal 180. So I'm going to subtract 120 from both sides, and I'll get 2x equals 60. Divide by 2, I'll get x equals 30. So this angle right here, this angle QMR, must be 30 degrees. The number of radians in a 720 degree angle can be written as a pi, where a is a constant. What is the value of a? Okay, well, if we should know that 2 pi equals 360 degrees. Therefore, 720 divided by 360, that's going to be 2. So if we multiply both sides of this by 2, we'll get 720 on the right, and we'll get 4 pi on the left. So the value of a is 4. 19. The graph of a line in the xy plane passes through the point 1, 4 and crosses the x-axis at the point 2, 4. The line crosses the y-axis at the point 0b. What is the value of b? Okay. For this, I think we need to, let's do a little sketch real quick. We have 0.14 and a 0.20. So it's going to be on something like that. So it's going to have a line. It's going to be coming down some in this direction. 0b, well, that's just going to be the 0b is going to be the y-intercept. So if we can find the y-intercept, we would be happy. All right, well, let's find the rate of change for this graph. If we're going from a 0.14 to a 0.20, we're looking for change in y over the change in x. In this case, y is changing, well, it's going down 4. X is changing 1. So every time we go over 1, we're going down, or sorry, to the right 1, we're going down 4. That would hold then that if we go to the left, right, this is also the same as 4 over negative 1. This is saying if we go to the left 1 on the x-axis, we go up 4. Well, we know we have a point at 1, 4, so if we go to the left 1, we'll be at 0, and then we'd go up 4, we'd be at 8. So the b value that we're looking for here is 8. 20. 7,532 plus 100y squared plus 10 times 10y squared minus 110. The expression above can be written in the form ay squared plus b. A and b are constants. What is the value of a plus b? Okay, so we need to figure out what a and b are. That's fine. So, well, a is just going to be the coefficient on y squared, and we know that that's going to be the sum of, so I just distribute that positive 1 to get rid of the parentheses on the first set. I'll distribute that 10. I'll have 100y squared minus 110 and add a 0. Okay. So I see that I've got 100 and 100, so that coefficient on y squared is going to be 200. Okay. Now we're looking for b. Well, b is just the sum of the constants. All right. Well, the sum of the constants is going to be 7,532 minus 1,100. So that's going to be 6,432. and we add these together, we're going to get 6,632. Alright, section 4. This is the calculator section, so make sure you have that handy. Here's our formula sheet. We will come back as needed. Number 1, feeding information for boarded pets. We got a table here for cats and dogs, wet food, dry food. Okay. The table above shows the kinds of food that are fed to the cats and dogs currently boarded at a pet care facility. What fraction of the dogs are fed only dry food? Okay, well, we are only focused on dogs. Only focused on dogs. There are a total of 25 dogs. That's the whole. And we want to know the part. Well, the part is a fraction dot fed only dry food. So we're looking for how many dogs are fed dry food. Well, only dry food is 2, so it would be 2 out of 25. Number 2, which of the following expressions is equivalent to the one above? Alright, so let's distribute the coefficients on the parentheses and combine like terms. We've got a coefficient of 1 on the first, so distribute that. It's going to be x squared minus 3. And then we're going to distribute a negative 1 on the second set, and that's going to be a negative 1 times 3x squared, which is positive 3x squared, and then minus 5. Well, it's going to combine like terms. We're going to get 4x squared, and then minus 8. 4x squared minus 8. 3. A certain package requires 3 centimeters of tape to be closed securely. What is the maximum number of packages of this type that can be secured with 6 meters of tape? And 6 meters of tape, and 1 meter is 100 centimeters. Okay, so 6 meters, and we know that we know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So then if we have 6 meters, well, that's going to be 600 centimeters. And we know we need 3 centimeters of tape, so we're going to divide 600 by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then we have 0, 0. So 200 packages can be secured. 4. A market researcher selected 200 people at random from a group of people who indicated that they liked a certain book. The 200 people were shown a movie based on the book and then asked whether they liked or disliked the movie. Of those surveyed, 95% said they liked the movie, or said they disliked the movie. Okay, so let's highlight that. 95% said they disliked the movie. Which of the following inferences can appropriately be drawn from this survey result? A. At least 95% of people who go see movies will dislike the movie. Well, that's not founded on the survey, because the survey was only people who indicated they liked a certain book. Okay, well then that's not the whole population. So that's not going to be representative of all people. B. At least 95% of people who read books will dislike the movie. No, they didn't. It wasn't a survey of people who read books. It was a survey of people who liked a certain book. So that's not true. C. Most people who dislike the book will dislike. Most people who dislike this book will like this movie. I think actually went the other way around. It said people who like the book will dislike the movie. So the last one, D, most people who like this book will dislike the movie. Yes, that is founded on the survey. Number 5. Which of the following ordered pairs satisfies the inequality 5x minus 3y is less than 4? There are only 3 possible ordered pairs. I think that the fastest way to do this is just to plug and chug. Plug in the xy pair and see if it in fact is less than 5 or less than 4. So if we have 5 times x, which is 1, we'll have 5, and then y is 1, and be minus 3, less than 4. Yes, that works. If we have 5 times 2, would be 10, minus 3 times 5 would be 15, it's less than 4. Yes. If we have 5 times 3, that's going to be 15, minus 3 times 2, which is 6, is less than 4. No. So only 1 and 2 are going to be the solutions. So C is our answer. 6. In the equation ax plus 3 squared equals 36, a is a constant. If x is negative 3 is one solution to the equation, what is a possible value of a? Okay, so if x equals negative 3 is a solution, then we can just plug that into our equation here and solve for a. We're going to get a times negative 3 plus 3 squared equals 36. Okay, so I'm going to simplify what's going on inside here. I'm going to get negative 3a plus 3 and take the square root of both sides. I'll get plus minus 6. Okay. And then I'm going to have 2 equations here. I'm going to have, and I'm going to subtract 3 from both of them. So I'm going to have, actually I'm just write it out. Plus 3 equals negative 6. Negative 3a plus 3 equals positive 6. Subtract 3 from both sides. I'm going to get negative 3a equals negative 9. On this other equation, I'm going to get negative 3a equals 3. Divide both sides by negative 3. I'll get a equals 3. And I'll get a equals negative 1. So negative 1 is a possible value of a. Number 7 and 8. Distance and density of planetoids in the inner solar system. The scatter plot above shows the densities of 7 planetoids in grams per cubic centimeter with respect to their average distances from the Sun in astronomical units. The line of best fit is also shown. Okay. 7. According to the scatter plot, which of the following statements is true about the relationship between a planetoid's average distance from the Sun and its density? Alright, so the average distance from the Sun and its density. Well, it looks like as the distance from the Sun increases, as we increase in this direction, the density is going down. It's getting less dense as we go away from the Sun. Okay. Alright, let's look at the answers. A. Planetoids that are more distance from the Sun tend to have lesser densities. Yes, that's exactly true. Let's see. B. Planetoids that are more distance from the Sun tend to have greater densities. No, that is the opposite of what we're saying. C. The density of a planetoid that is twice as far from the Sun as another planetoid is half the density of the other planetoid. No, we are not. It is not a exponential relationship here. This is a linear relationship. It appears to be. That's at least the line of best fit is linear. That's not true. D, the distance from a planetoid to the sun is unrelated to its density. Nope, if that were the case, then there'd be no line of best fit. It would just be no correlation between the data. So we're going to say A. Number 8. This is the same data, same graph that we used on 7. An astronomer has discovered a new planetoid about 1.2 astronomical units from the sun. According to the line of best fit, which of the following best approximates the density of the planetoid in grams per cubic centimeter? So 1.2 astronomical units. Let's get a pen here. 1.2, we go straight up to the graph. Okay, and then we go over to our density, and it looks like 4.7, 4.68 or something. Okay, well, yeah, C is going to be the closest to what we're seeing here. Number 9. 9ax plus 9b minus 6 equals 21. Based on the equation above, what is the value of ax plus b? Okay. Alright, so we want to solve this equation for ax plus b and get everything else on the other opposite side of the equation. So we're just going to, I'm going to start out with 9ax plus 9b minus 6 equals 21. Add 6 to both sides, get 9ax plus 9b equals 27, and then divide everything by 9. I'll get ax plus b, that's what we're looking for, equals 3. So we see that the value of ax plus b is 3. 10. Lonnie spent 15% of her 8-hour workday in meetings. How many minutes of her workday did she spend in meetings? Okay, well, 8-hour workday. 8-hour workday, that's going to be 8 hours times, let's not use that, let's use times 60 minutes. It's going to be 480 minutes in her workday. Okay, so let's figure out what 15% of that is. Well, I mean, right off the bat, I know 10% of 480 is 48, and 5% must be half of that, so 24, and that's going to be 72 minutes. So didn't even need to use a calculator. But if you did, you could just type in 180 times 15%, 0.15, and you would get 72. 11. A software company is selling a new game in a standard edition and a collector's edition. The box for the standard edition has a volume of 20 cubic inches, and the box for the collector's edition has a volume of 30 cubic inches. Okay, so we have standard edition, 20 cubic inches. We have collector's edition, 30 cubic inches. Okay, the company receives an order for 75 copies of the game, and the total volume of the order to be shipped is 1870. Okay, so 1,870 cubic inches. Which of the following systems of equations can be used to determine the number of standard edition games S, and the number of standard edition is S, and collector's edition C. Okay. Well, we know that S plus C is going to be equal to 75. All right, so we can eliminate a couple of our answers here. We know that S minus C is not right, so that's not going to be a solution. These first two are just a rearrangement of what we got here. So we got C equals 75 minus S. And you can rearrange that, and you get the equation in A and B. Okay, so let's look at the second piece. We know that the volume is 1870. Well, we know that that's going to equal the sum of the volumes of the standard and the collectors. So the standard edition was 20 cubic centimeters, and that's going to be times S. And the collector's edition is 30 cubic inches, and that's going to be times C. So it looks like we want 20S and 30C. So B is not going to fit the bill. So A is our solution. 12. A customer paid $53 for a jacket after a 6% sales tax was applied. What was the price of the jacket before the sales tax? Okay, easy enough. We know that the original price, there was a sales tax, and that's on top of 100%, right? So 100% plus 6, that's going to be 106%, but we want to convert that to a decimal. And we know that that equals 53. So I'm just going to divide both sides by 1.06. So I'll pull up my calculator for this. 53 divided by 1.06 is 50. So the original price was $50. That's B. 13. Teresa's running speed and time. Teresa ran on a treadmill for 30 minutes, and her time and speed are shown on the graph above. According to the graph, which of the following statements is not true concerning Teresa's run? A. Teresa ran at a constant speed for 5 minutes. Let's see. If Teresa ran at a constant speed, the speed wouldn't change. That would mean there would be a horizontal tangent, right? So right here, that's where she ran at a constant speed, and that is 5 minutes. So A is not true. Okay, so A is not our solution. All right. B, Teresa's speed was increasing for a longer period of time than it was decreasing. So increasing for a longer period of time than it was decreasing. Okay, so it was increasing over this period. Actually, maybe we just do that in blue. We're looking at a different aspect here. So I was increasing for 5 minutes, and then it was increasing on this interval as well, and that was another 5 minutes. So it was increasing for a total of 10 minutes. Okay. Let's look at where it was decreasing. It was decreasing on this interval, which was 10 minutes, and then on this interval, which was 5 minutes. So it decreased for a total of 15 minutes. Okay, and B says the speed was increasing for longer than it was decreasing. That is not true, right? That we just saw that it was decreasing for a longer speed than it was increasing. Okay, so B is our solution. We can move on, but I'm just going to read the rest of them. C, Teresa's speed decreased at a constant rate during the last 5 minutes. Yes, that is true. We see that the different color here. We see that during the last 5 minutes, yeah, that is a constant rate. So that is true. So you can't pick that one. And D, Teresa's speed reached its maximum during the last 10 minutes. That is also true. Its maximum speed is right here, and that was at 25 minutes. That was within the last 10 minutes. So D is also true, so it's not our solution. 14. In the figure above, what is the value of x? Okay, well, we've got a quadrilateral here, and we should know that every quadrilateral, well, we can break it up into two triangles, and each triangle will have 180 degrees, so a quadrilateral has a total of 360 degrees for its interior angles. Okay, and we know that we have one angle here, angle A, plus we have 3 x's, so plus 3x, and that has to equal the total interior degrees. Okay, well, angle A is 45 degrees, so if we subtract 45 from both sides, we'll see that 3x equals 315, and divide both sides by 3, we'll get 105. So D is our solution. 15. If 50 1-cent coins were stacked on top of each other in a column, the column would be approximately 3 7/8 inches tall. At this rate, which of the following is closest to the number of 1-cent coins it would take to make an 8-inch tall column? Alright, so I'm just going to do a proportion for this. So 50 coins is 3 7/8. Well, I prefer to have my mixed numbers written as fractions. So I'm going to write that as a fraction. So that's going to be, let's see, 24. It's going to be 31/8 inches. Okay, and we want to know how many coins make an 8-inch tall stack. Okay, well, we want to solve for x. That's the number of coins, so we need to multiply both sides by 8. Okay, so it's going to be times 8 times 8. Those are going to cancel out. And on the left, I'm going to have 8 on 1 times 50 over 1. And instead of dividing by 31/8, I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal, 8/31. Okay, so then what we have here is, it's just going to be, I'm going to use my calculator for this real quick. So we're going to have 8 times 50 times 8 in the numerator. It's going to be 3,200 over 31 in the denominator. So divided by 31, so it's going to be 100. So x equals approximately 103.2. Okay, so that's going to be closest to 100. So B is the solution. 16. If a minus b equals 12 and b divided by 2 is 10, what is the value of a plus b? Alright, well, I think we want to figure out what b is first, because we have one variable. B must equal 20. Multiply both sides by 2. Alright, well, if a minus 20 equals 12, then a, add 20 to both sides, must be 32. Alright, now I want to do a plus b. Well, that's just going to be 32. Oops. 32 plus 20. That's going to be 52. So our answer is D. 17. Y equals 19.99 plus 1.5 times x. The equation above models the total cost y in dollars that a company charges a customer to rent a truck for 1 day and drive the truck x miles. The total cost consists of a flat fee plus a charge per mile driven. When the equation is graphed in the xy plane, what does the y-intercept of the graph represent in terms of the model? Okay, so do a little sketch here. So it's going to be you should be very familiar with y equals mx plus b. Got to be familiar with that. That's going to come up on the SAT, guaranteed. All right, so m in this case is going to be our rate of change, and b is going to be our y-intercept, our starting value. So in this case, we're starting at 19.99, and we have a rate of change of 1.5, or $1.50. And we want to know what the y-intercept, sorry, read this again. When the equation is graphed in the xy plane, what does the y-intercept of the graph represent in terms of the model? Well, it represents the flat fee. Okay, it's the 19.99 at the 0 mile mark. A. Number 18. Income and percent of total expenses spent on programs for 10 charities in 2011. Alright, so the scatter plot above shows data for 10 charities, along with the line of best fit. For the charity with the greatest percent of total expenses spent on programs, okay, which of the following is closest to the difference of the actual percent and the percent predicted by the line of best fit? So how far is the charity from the line of best fit? And so we need to find the charity with the greatest percent spent on programs, and that's going to be right here. Oops, I'm going to do that. I'm going to highlight that. Yeah, right there. Okay, and we want to know how far that is from the line of best fit. Well, that is the distance to the line of best fit, so it looks like the actual percent is maybe 92, and the line of best fit might be at 85.5. Yeah, so it looks like a change of about 6.5 or 7. So we're going to say B is the closest. 19. Mosteller's formula. Okay. The formulas above are used in medicine to estimate the body's surface area, A, in square meters, of infants and children whose weight, W, ranges between 3 and 30 kilograms, and whose height, H, is measured in centimeters. Okay. 19. Based on Current's formula, the second one there, what is W in terms of A? So Current's formula, W in terms of A. Well, that just means we're solving for W. We want to get W all by itself. So to do that, we're just going to solve this just like it's actually called a literal equation. We're getting the W all by itself. Multiply both sides times by 30. We'll get 30A equals 4 plus W, and subtract 4 from both sides. 30A minus 4 equals W. 30A minus 4 equals W. A is our solution. Number 20. This is the same setup. If Mosteller's and Current's formulas give the same estimate for A, which of the following expressions is equivalent to the square root of H times W? Okay, so we want to solve for, let's say, same estimate for A. Okay, so if they give the same estimate for A, then we know that we can set them as equal. Then we know that H, square root of HW over 60 must equal 4 plus w over 30. And again, what we're doing is we're solving for square root of hw. Okay, so you just have to multiply both sides times 60, and we'll see that square root of hw equals, well, that's going to be 60 times 4 plus w over 30. Okay, well, I'm just going to I'm going to cancel out. I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 30. I'll get 2. So hw, or square root of hw, equals 2 times 4 plus h. That is going to be C. 21. Total protein and total fat for 8 sandwiches. The scatter plot above shows the number of grams of both total protein and total fat for 8 sandwiches on a restaurant menu. The line of best fit for the data is also shown. According to the line of best fit, which of the following is closest to the predicted increase in total fat in grams for every increase of 1 gram in total protein? So what we're finding here is the change in, we want to find the change in fat relative to change in protein. Okay, well that sure looks like change in y over change in x. Okay, well that's slope. That's slope. Okay, we want to find the slope of the line. So to find the slope of the line, we just need 2 points that we can approximate. And I'm gonna say that we've got, let's pick this maybe. Let's use a different color. Let's say this point, that's going to be 10, 19. And let's pick another point. Let's pick this point. That's going to be 20. And, gee, I don't know, 30, 34. Okay, so change in y is going to be 34 minus 19. 34 minus 19. Change in x is going to be 20 minus 10. Okay, so it's going to be 10 on the denominator, and in the numerator we're going to get, what's that? It's going to be 15. So that's going to be 1.5. And sure looks like C is going to be our answer. 22% of residents who earned a bachelor's degree or higher. A survey was given to residents of all 50 states asking if they had earned a bachelor's degree or higher. The results from 7 of the states are given in the table. The median percent of residents who earned a bachelor's degree or higher for all 50 states was 26.95%. What is the difference between the median percent of residents who earned a bachelor's degree or higher for the 7 states and the median for all 50 states? So we've got the median for all 50 states right there. Now we just need to find the median for these 7 states. The median is the middle, so we just need to figure out which one of these is in the middle. We have 7 values, so that means that we'll have a median value, okay, and that median value will be halfway between. It'll be on the 4th, right? There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th, and then 3 more on top of that for the total of 7. Okay, so the 4th from the bottom or the 4th from the top will be the median value. So we just have to count in four states, and we'll count in from least to greatest. So we've got the least value is 19. That's 1. The next least value is 21. Then we have 25. And then we have 27.9 would be the fourth value, or the fourth state. And that value, that would be the median. Okay. And we want to know what the difference between these two is. So we have 27.9 minus 26.95. Okay, so that's going to be 6. That'll be 19 or 18 because we have to move one over. And then we subtract. We're going to 10 minus 5, 9, and these are both going to cancel out. So 0.95 is the difference. 23. A cylindrical can containing pieces of fruit is filled to the top with syrup before being sealed. The base of the can has an area of 75 square centimeters, and the height of the can is 10 centimeters. If 110 cubic centimeters of syrup is needed to fill the can to the top, which of the following is closest to the total volume of the pieces of fruit in the can? Okay, so the syrup is going to be the difference between the fruit and the total volume of the can. So if we find the volume of the can and we find the volume of the fruit, sealed to the can. If we find the volume of the can and subtract the volume of the syrup, that'll tell us the volume of the fruit. So the volume of the can is going to be the volume of a cylinder is volume of, or area of the base times the height. Okay. And we know that the base of the can has an area of 75 square centimeters, and we know the height is 10. So the volume of the can is 750 cubic centimeters. We know that we used 110 cubic centimeters for the syrup, so that means that before the syrup was added, there must have been, well, let's see, 640 cubic centimeters of fruit. 24. The function above models the height in feet of an object above ground t seconds after being launched straight up in the air. What does the number 72 represent in the function? Okay, well, let's think about, imagine if time was 0. Well, if time was 0, h of 0, the first two terms are going to disappear, and you're just left with 72. So at 0 seconds, the height of the object must have been at 72 feet. All right. Let's read through the answers. A, the initial height in feet of the object. Gee, that sure matches what we think. B, the maximum height of the object. No, that would be at the vertex. C, the initial speed. Nope, this has nothing to do with speed. And the maximum speed, again, nothing to do with speed. So A is our solution. All right, 25 and 26. Energy per gram of typical macronutrients. Okay, the table above gives the typical amount of energy per gram expressed in both food calories and kilojoules of the three macronutrients in food: protein, fat, and carbohydrate. 25. If X food calories is equivalent to K kilojoules of the following, which best represents the relationship between X and K? So X is food calories, and K is kilojoules. So we have food calories to kilojoules. All right, so we want to, let's see, so it's going to be some kind of relationship. If I look at this, I'm seeing 4, 16, 9, 4, 16, 9, 37, 4, 16. It sure looks like I'm taking the food calories, right? So food calories is X, then kilojoules would be 4 times X, approximately. Okay. And if we wanted to get a little bit more precise, well, we could just divide here. So if we had 16.7, 16, oops, 16, let's erase that, 16.7, and we want to divide that by 4, that could give us our constant here. So let's see, 16.7 divided by 4, well, that's going to be 4.175. That's the first one. The second one is 37.7 divided by 9. Well, 37.7 divided by 9, doing on my calculator here, is 4.18. Okay, and then our last one is the first, same as the first. So it looks like 4.1 or 8 or 4.2. 4.2 times the food calories. So 4.2 times the food calories should tell us the kilojoules. All right, well, that's going to be this one right here. 26. All right, so this is the same data as 25. If the 180 food calories in a granola bar come entirely from P grams of protein, F grams of fat, and C grams of carbohydrate, which of the following expresses F in terms of P and C? Well, we know that these food calories here are the calories per gram of macronutrient. So that would mean that 4 times P, right, however many grams of protein, plus 9 times fat, for how many grams of fat, and then 4 times C, that would give us the total number of calories. And we know that it's 180 calories. All right, and we want to solve this. Which of the following expresses F? We want to solve this for F. Oops, did not want to do that. Let's see if I can get a highlighter. Solve this for F. All right, so I'm just going to see if I can copy this and move this over here. Let's actually move it up here. Okay. So we've got, we want to solve for F, so we're going to subtract 4P and subtract 4C from both sides. Minus 4P minus 4C. So we'll get 9F on the left, and we'll get 180 minus 4P minus 4C. So let's divide everything by 9. We will get, let's get a pen here. F equals, well, 180 divided by 9, it's going to be 20, minus 4/9 P minus 4/9 C. Okay. Now I'm going to, none of my answers are in this format. They all look like they have the coefficients factored out. So I'm going to factor out a negative 4/9 oops, factor out of negative 4/9, I'll be left with p. And then if I factor out a negative, this is going to be a positive, and the coefficient is also 4/9, so it'll be plus c. So my solution to this is going to be b. 20 minus 4/9 times quantity p plus c. 27. The world's population has grown at an average rate of 1.9% per year since 1945. There were approximately 4 billion people in the world in 1975. Which of the following functions expresses the world's population in p in billions of people t years since 1975? Okay, so this is a exponential function. You should know that you have a times b to the x, all right, where a is the starting value, b is the growth rate, or the rate constant multiple, the common factor, okay, and then x would be your input, in this case years. So y is actually going to be p, and the starting value, since we're talking about years since 1975, starting value would be the population in 1975 in terms of billions. It's 4 billion, so I'm just going to use 4. And we know that every year it grows by a rate of 1.9%. So that's going to be 100. So each year is 100% of the year before to 1 plus 1.9%. So that's going to be 0.019. So this would be equivalent to 1.019 is equivalent to 101.9%. So that's our growth factor times, instead of x, we're using t for rate of change. Or sorry, t for our input in years. And it looks like our solution is right here at the top. And right, there you go, A for 27. 28. In the xy plane above, a point not shown with coordinates st lies on the graph of the linear function f. S and t are positive integers. What is the ratio of t to s? All right, well, the ratio between the x and the y coordinates, since this is directly proportional, because it goes through the, get a pen here, goes through the, oh, that was terrible, goes through the origin. We know that the relationship between x and y will be, or the ratio of x to y or y to x will be constant anywhere on this line. So if we have a ratio of x to y here, let's see, is it saying ratio of t to s? Well, t is y, s is x, so it's x, so it's y to x. So that's going to be 6 to 3. And we can reduce that by a factor of 3. We'll get 2 to 1. 2 to 1. 2 to 1. So C is our answer. 29. A circle in the xy plane has equation x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 25. Which of the following points does not lie in the interior of the circle? Okay, so let's do a sketch. Oops. Let's do a sketch. We know that the circle is going to have has the equation x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So the center of this circle is going to be at, it's going to be -3 and +1. +1, that's the center. And we know the radius is going to be the square root of 25, so it's 5. So I'm just going to put some other points on here. That's -1, 2, 3. We're going to go to the right, 2. So that's going to be on the circumference. This is 1. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That will be on the circumference. So this is 2, 1. This is -3, 6. And we'll go down. That'll be, it's at 1, so it'll be 0. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'll be at -4. So at -3, -4 will be on the circumference. And then we can go out 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that will be on the circumference. And we're looking for a point that's outside of the interior of the circle. Well, -7, -7, 3, -7, 3 is going to be approximately right here. I'm going to use a different color. Very well be inside the circle. -3, 1. Well, -3, 1, that is the center of the circle. 0, 0, that looks like it's inside. And 3, 2. Well, 3, 2, that's 1, 2, 3. 3, 2 is over here. So I think that's going to be on the exterior of the circle. Answer is D. 30. Year and subscriptions sold. The manager of an online news service received the report above on number of subscriptions sold by the service. The manager estimated that the percent increase from 2012 to 2013 would be double the percent increase from 2013 to 2014. How many subscriptions did the manager expect would be sold in 2014? So we want the percent increase from 2012 to 2013. So it's going to be, we want to think about this as part to whole. It comes up all the time. The part is the increase. Well, the increase in this case is going to be 5,880 minus 5,600. And the whole is the original price, or sorry, the original number of subscriptions in 2012. So that'd be 5,600. Okay, so that's going to be 5880 minus 5600. That's going to be 280 out of 5600. Okay, so I'm going to take a calculator out. I'm going to do 280 divided by 5600. And I get that that's 0.05. Well, that's a decimal, so multiply it by 100, we get the percent increase was 5%. Alright, so the manager estimated that the percent increase from 2012 to 13 is double the increase from 13 to 14. So we would expect that from 13 to 14, from 2013 to 2014, the increase would be 2.5%. Okay. So if we have an increase of 2.5%, then we take our starting value of 2013 at 5880, and we're going to multiply that by, well, we have 100% plus 2.5%. So it's going to be 102.5%. Okay, but we got to make that a decimal, so it's going to be 1.025. That is 102.5%. And that will be the value, or the number of subscriptions sold in 2014 as estimated. So I'm going to do my calculator for that. So we get 5,080 6,080 times 1.025. 6,027. 6,027. Our answer is B. Number 31. In 1854, during the California Gold Rush, each ounce of gold was worth $20, and the largest known mass of gold found in California was worth $62,400 in that year. What was the weight in pounds of this mass of gold? Okay, well, we know that each ounce was worth $20, okay, and we know that let me get a pen here. 1 ounce was worth $20. So we want to figure out how many ounces is going to be worth $62,400. Well, to isolate, to figure out the number of ounces, we need to multiply both sides by 62,400. We will get 62,400 on 20 equals the number of ounces. Well, this is going to be, drop the zeros, I'll get 3, 1, 2, 31,020 equals the number of ounces. Okay, well, that's the number of ounces. We want to know that if there's 1 pound per 16 ounces, how many pounds in 3,120 ounces? Well, multiply both sides by 3120. You get 3120 divided by 16 equals the number of pounds. I'm going to do this on my calculator. 3120 divided by 16 equals 195. So this is y equals 195, or 195 pounds is the mass of gold. 32. Line T is shown in the xy plane below. What is the slope? What is the slope of line T? All right, well, slope is just the rate of, it's just the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so you can think of it as y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. I'm just looking for the change in the y. All right, so I'm going to use the points, this point and this point, because this point right here does not have our common denominator, so I think it'd be easier to use these other two. So the change in y is just going to be y1. I'm going to use, doesn't really matter which one, I'm going to use the one on the right as y1. y1 minus negative, so it's plus 27 fifths over 9 minus negative 6, or plus 6. So that is going to be 30 fifths over 15. Alright, well, 30 fifths, that's 6 over 15. Let's see, so we can reduce by a factor of 3. That's going to be 2 fifths. So 2 fifths would be our solution for this. Number 33. We have the score on a trivia game is obtained by subtracting the number of incorrect answers from twice the number of correct answers. If a player answered 40 questions to obtain a score of 50, how many questions did the player answer correctly? Okay. So the score is 50, and that's obtained from subtracting the number of incorrect answers from twice the number of correct answers. So might as well use incorrect and correct, I and C. So we're going to subtract the number of incorrect from twice the correct answer. So 2C minus I. If a player answered 40 questions and obtained a score of 50, then we know that, he obtained a score of 50. That would be this equation. And our second equation would be that 40 questions equals correct plus incorrect. Okay. So I'm going to use the second equation here, and I'm going to solve for I. How many questions did the player answer correctly? I'm going to solve for I because I want to eliminate the incorrect answers from the first equation. That way I'll be left with just the correct answers. So I'm going to subtract C from both sides. 40 minus C equals I. Well, now I know what I equals, so I can substitute it into the first equation. So I've got 50 equals 2C minus, I equals 40 minus C. Okay. Alright, let's distribute and combine like terms. 50 equals 2C minus 40 plus C. So there will be 3C on both sides, 3C on the right, minus 40, and then add 40 to both sides. 90 equals 3C, and divide by 3. So 30 equals C. So the correct number of answers is 30. Okay. 34. Point C is the center of the circle above. What fraction of the area of the circle is the area of the shaded region? Okay, well, we know that the central angle here is 100, and that's out of 360. Well, that's going to be proportional to the sector area relative to the area of the circle. So if we reduce this, we'll get 10 over 36, and we can divide that by 2. We'll get 5/18. 35. Y equals x squared minus 4x plus 4. Y equals 4 minus x. If the ordered pair xy satisfies the system of equations above, what is the possible value of x? Okay. So we're solving for x, so we want to eliminate y. That is fortunate because we know y equals 4 minus x, so we can substitute it to the first equation. We will be left with 4 minus x equals x squared minus 4x plus 4. This is a quadratic. To solve a quadratic, we have to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 4 and add x to both sides. Okay, I'm going to be left with 0 on the right, x squared minus 3x, and then the 4's cancel out. So I'm going to solve a quadratic. We need to factor or use the quadratic formula. I think it's easy to factor in this case. So we've got x times x minus 3 equals 0. Well, this first factor, if that first factor equals 0, then the output is 0. If this factor if x equals 3, then this factor equals 0 and the output is 0. So the two possible answers for this would be 0 or 3. Just double checking. Yes, so 0 or 3 for this. Number 36. So we got a triangle here. inside of a triangle, they're similar uh, because they share angles. Uh, they share this angle, oops, this angle up at top, and then of course they share this angle right here. Right? So let's see what this is asking. In the figure above, tangent of B, all right, tangent of B is 3/4. Okay, so we know that the relationship tangent. So let's see. So that's SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the relationship between this side, or the ratio between the bottom and the upward, the long leg, short leg to the long leg, is 3/4. So tangent of B equals 3/4. And we have some further information. It says that BC, okay, so that's this whole piece right here, is 15. And DA is 4. Okay, so DA is just this little piece right here. Okay, and we want to figure out what DE is. So DE would be this section right here. Okay, well, let's see. If let's give a hypothetical. If we have a triangle here, and we know that this angle is equal to B, and let's assume that that would just be 3/4. That's possible, right? With an angle measure of whatever this is. Okay. Now, if we have 3/4, what would the hypotenuse be? Well, hypotenuse would be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That would be 9 plus 16 c squared. So 25 equals c squared. So 5 would equal c. That's a very common 3-4-5 triangle. Okay, so then we know that this triangle must be similar to this large triangle. Okay, and we know the hypotenuse is 15 in the large triangle. Okay, so if the hypotenuse is 15 in the large triangle, then we can say that 15 will be relative to this long side, which it would be 4 plus, say, x. Okay, and that's going to be equal to 5, which is the hypotenuse on our little sample triangle, is to 4. Get some of this out of the way. Okay. Alright, so we'll cross multiply here, and we'll see that 4 times 15, well, that's 60. And then 5 times 4x, well, it's going to be 20 plus 5x. Subtract 20 from both sides, we get 40 equals 5x, and then divide by 5. So x equals 5, or sorry, x equals 8. So you can see over here, oops, that this side will be 8. So our large triangle is 15 on the hypotenuse and 12 on the long leg, if we could figure out what the base of that triangle is, then we could set up a proportion to calculate the length of DE. So we've got 12 squared, that'd be this side, plus, let's give that a variable, let's give it x. X squared equals 15 squared. That's, 12 squared is 144, and 15 squared is, let's see, 225. So if we subtract 144 from both sides, pull up my calculator, we have 225 minus 144, we get 81. Oh, well, square root of 81 is 9. Okay, so then we know that the long leg right here is 9. Okay, so we can set up a proportion and solve for DE. Well, DE, let's call that y. Then we know that 12, the long leg, is to 9 as 8 is to y. Alright, and we'll cross multiply, and we will get 12y equals 72, and then we can divide by 12, and 72 divided by 12, well, 60 divided by 12 is 5, so that must be 6. Number 37. Number of contestants by score and day. Alright, so the same 20 contestants on each of 3 days answered 5 questions in order to win a prize. Each contestant received 1 point for each correct answer. The number of contestants receiving a given score on each day is shown in the table. Alright, so let's start with, let's look at 37 here. What was the mean score of the contestants on day 1? Alright, so on day 1, it's right here. Yeah. We know that there are 20 contestants. Yeah. And we know that 2 of them scored 5. Oops. 2 of them scored 5. That would be 10. We know 3 of them scored 4. That would be 12. 4 of them scored 3. That would also be 12. 6 scored 2. That would also be 12. And 2 scored 1. And 3 scored 0. Okay, so what is that total? That's going to be 10 and 12 is 22, and 12 is 34, and 12 is 48, and 2 is 50. Okay, so that's going to be a total of 50, and we have 20 individuals, so that's going to be 5 halves would be the mean score for day 1. 38. Same situation as 37. No contestants received the same score on 2 different days. If a contestant is selected at random, what is the probability that the selected contestant received a score of 5 on day 2 or day 3, given the contestants received a score of 5 on one of the 3 days? So we are looking at, let's see, if they scored a 5 on one of the 3 days, that means they're in this category. We know that nobody received the same score twice, so we know that a total of 7 contestants scored a 5 on one of the 3 days. Okay, so what's the probability that somebody scored a 5 on day 2 or 3? Well, that would be 5. That'd be 5 out of, given the contestant scored 5 on one of the 3 days, 5 out of 7. Total of 7 people scored 5 on one of the 3 days.